In the Absolute Universe, Wally West has always struggled with anxiety. He was just a boy drifting from town to town because of his father's job. A boy who lost his mother too young. A boy who never stayed anywhere long enough to put down roots. Anxiety was the backdrop of his entire life. Then came the accident. Barry Allen's experiment ruptured reality in the bowels of Fort Fox, and Wally was caught in the blast. The result was impossible speed, a fractured relationship with time, and glimpses of futures where he becomes a hero and others where he becomes a monster. At first it looked like an unfortunate accident, but as time went by it became clear that it was not. Dr. Eleanor Thane had nudged events into place. She pushed Barry to mentor Wally. She believed Wally was key to unlocking a dimension of living energy known as the Still Point, a realm first discovered by her grandfather Eobard Thane, who went mad and vanished into his discovery decades ago. No, Barry's accident was very likely deliberate, and in the confusion, Wally fled, running faster than any human had done before, but he dragged Barry with him, killing him. The authorities responded by deploying the Rogues, a militarized strike team led by Captain Cold and backed by Grodd, a small green psychic monkey. But instead of hunting Wally, they sided with him. Their loyalty was to Colonel Rudy West, Wally's father, who had disappeared into Thorne's custody. As their name suggests, they planned to take their powerful weapons and go rogue right after they freed Colonel West. And they wanted Wally to help them. As they stormed Fort Fox, Wally slipped inside to save his father, and that's when everything unraveled. The Still Point reopened, and from it emerged Eobard Thane, not the weird scientist history remembered, but a towering, entropy-twisted monster. Decades trapped in stillness had hollowed him out. He had dived into a pit containing the raw energy that fuels the universe, Omega energy perhaps, and became a monster. Thane cast Wally into the Still Point, where he came face to face with the spectral echo of Barry Allen. Wally learned that there was no way out, except for death, or diving into the same pit that Thane had. It's fortunate then that the trickster was able to repair the portal generator, freeing Wally, and like a streak of red, he returned, ready to fight. And like every issue of The Flash so far, this issue moves at a breakneck pace. Listing out the events, not an awful lot happens, but at the same time quite a bit does. Now, Thane rants and raves about how he had spoken to God in this universe that's guaranteed to be Darkseid, and he had told him that he was the one speedster allowed on Earth, the Alpha and the Omega. But Wally begs to differ. When the two come to blows, it causes an explosion, decimating the remains of the labs. Fortunately, Trickster is able to pop some force shields over her fellow rogues, because judging by that damage, the explosion could have been deadly. Thane seems to be down for the count, and this gives Wally and his father time to reconcile. The first time they've seen each other in months, and all they can say is how much Wally has grown. Their reunion is cut short because Thane gets up and Wally tells his father he's going to keep fighting because that's what he's here for. Meanwhile, Grodd takes control of a panicking scientist to gain access to the labs, where he finds his father. He too is a green monkey with a bulging and exposed brain, although his brain seems to be contained within a dome, a bit like Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. His father is far more cynical than Grodd. When the two escape from Fort Fox, the father is hesitant to proceed because he sees people in the distance. Grodd tries to assure his father that the bad men are gone, but he responds that all men are bad and that all men must pay, which is pretty ominous. Back at Fort Fox, and as brave as Wally is, really he's no match for Thane. The monster is just too strong. Fortunately, the rogues have his back. Captain Cold shoots Thane with his cold gun, which admittedly doesn't do much, but it serves as a distraction while the trickster pops a repaired portal to the Still Point behind him and opens it. The force of the portal pulls Thane closer, but he resists going through, holding on as hard as he can. Realizing the danger, Colonel West charges at him, forcing the two of them through the portal before it closes. Wally demands that the rogues reopen the portal so that he can rescue his father, but Captain Boomerang tells him he promised the Colonel not to do that, and destroys the portal. Now, Wally is technically an orphan, but note that going to the Still Point doesn't guarantee death. Jay Garrick only died because he spent so long there and refused to give in to the temptation of diving into the Omega energy. Granted, Thane likely won't be too happy to be back in his prison, and he may well harm Colonel West, but Wally is optimistic. The rogues won't help him save his dad, but he promises to find a way to rescue him. And then, in the blink of an eye, he vanishes. The rogues are left to plunder the remain of Fort Fox, loading up as much of Dr. Thorne's equipment as they can. Note that she ran away in the confusion and nobody knows where she is. Wally, meanwhile, has gone to the only other place he ever found refuge, the Dibney Mission. And the end of the issue clearly says that this is the end of the Flash's year 1, and this reminds me of the closing pages of the first issue, where the Mirror Master arrived in the ruins of Fort Fox and accessed their computers. We were given a tease of some of the things to come in the subsequent year, and pretty much all of them came true. We saw Heatwave, here a magma monster, Wally and Grodd connecting, Eobard Thorne's experiment with the still place, and Wally holding up his costume. But the image in the bottom right showing several green apes and a city in ruins hasn't actually happened yet, unless this is supposed to be a more dramatic version of Grodd and his father escaping from Fort Fox. So, all in all, pretty accurate, but outside of last year's Free Comic Book Day special, we haven't really seen very much of the Mirror Master, aside from him standing in the background of the Absolute Evil special with Brainiac. Now that the first year storyline is complete and the Flash is fully established, I hope that this series will pick up a bit more momentum, pun intended. Of all the Absolute books, it's probably my least favourite because there's just not much to it. The other Absolute books are generally more allegorical and dramatise the horrific events that are going on in the real world right now, and watching heroes rise up and try and do something about it is cathartic. Who wouldn't want Batman to jab his pointy bat ears into the eyes of the people in the Epstein files? But Flash is about an anxious kid who learns to stop running and find some friends along the way. It's not bad by any means, it's just no way near as interesting. Even Absolute Green Lantern, which also started out a little wobbly, has started to find its feet now that the characters are established. Hopefully, we'll be able to say the same thing about this series now that the origin is out of the way. Absolute Flash number 12 is available now from all good comic shops.
I would encourage you to research your local comic shop, and if you don't have one, I'm certain there are dozens of good stores nearby that would be happy to mail you your comics. If you're opposed to the idea of cluttering up your home with comic books, then you can get this one digitally from places like Amazon as well as Neon Ishiban. Personally, I prefer physical comics, but I do like the convenience of having thousands of comic books accessible from my phone. But you do what works best for you. For those that are interested in my physical collection, I finally received my order from Mile High Comics' recent 70% off sale. My wife picked up several issues of Barbie Fashion missing from her collection, while I got these sweet Neil Adams Detective Comics issues. Next time, I'll be back shortly to talk about Batman number 7, where the Cape Crusader learns about Dr. Zella's star patient in room 10. Yeah, it's the Joker, but is it possible that he's been cured? And then next week, there are 3 comics I'll be talking about. Up first is Absolute Batman 18, which continues the story of Absolute Poison Ivy and her quest to turn the people of Gotham into her mindless slaves. Following that, I'll be talking about Absolute Green Lantern 12, where a ringless Joe comes face to face with the Obsidian Beast. And finally, I want to talk about Bleeding Hearts number 2 from Dennis Camp, the writer of Absolute Martian Manhunter. This is a story of a zombie named Poke, who discovers that his heart has started beating again, and he wonders if being a flesh-eating, shambling corpse is really the best use of his time. Hope to see you then.